Hi, I'm Jay of the Dead from Jay of the Dead's new horror movies. I've got a quick review for you of a brand new 2023 horror movie that was just released on VOD on May 19th. No spoilers. The film is called Outpost, and it was written and directed by Joel Truglio. He's a character actor who's done a lot of TV shows and comedies, so I think this may be his first venture into the horror genre. If you look at the poster art for Outpost, I think it's clear that this is intended to be a horror film, and the Internet Movie Database categorizes it solely as horror. Here's the premise, and again, with no spoilers. Outpost stars Beth Dover, who plays Kate, a woman who is trying to escape an abusive relationship. In fact, it quickly becomes obvious to us that the domestic violence that she has suffered has given her severe post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's even endangered her life at times. So Kate volunteers to travel out of state so she can serve the Idaho Lands Department by inhabiting a lookout tower for 3 months to watch for forest fires. But is Kate too traumatized by her abuse to find peace in her solitary tower? So that's the premise. I will warn you up front, Outpost has some very upsetting scenes of domestic violence, namely men brutalizing this woman, and it is unflinching. Also, I always make the mistake of eating while watching horror movies, and that's a mistake with this movie too, because there are several gross scenes that make it very unpleasant while snacking. Just a couple of interesting things about this movie. When Kate first arrives at her lookout tower, whenever the tower is shown on screen, there is this scary and dramatic music played on the score. It's just bizarre, because there is no reason why this tower should be threatening, so these music cues are odd and actually funny to me. And for whatever reason, this actress, Beth Dover, reminds me of the lead from My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Her name was Nia Vardalos. So because of that, I kept thinking of our protagonist here in a comedic manner, and that is definitely not what's intended. Although I will say she is definitely meant to be a quirky character, so that cognitive dissonance was a little distracting for me. Then the movie just gives us several instances where Kate is seeing things that aren't actually there. She's experiencing something that isn't actually happening, and it's clearly her PTSD. And this just keeps occurring over and over, and so we as the audience quickly learn that these visions are not real, and so it becomes tiresome pretty quick. And I will say, for most of the movie, it's a long middle section. Outpost just feels more like a drama, because any of these thriller type scenes aren't even real, and we know that. But then finally, as the film ramps up for the climax at the end, it gets more intense, and it moves from feeling like a drama to more like a thriller to then full-blown horror. Now, I'm not going to talk about what happens, of course, but this movie uses the phenomenon of approach aversion, which is our human survival tendency to be startled by things that are coming toward us. And so there's this very creepy scene, it's my favorite scene of the movie, where something is coming from the background straight toward the camera, which is essentially us, and that is very effective. I love that moment, it's pretty startling to me. And next to Steven Spielberg's Minority Report, I would say this movie may have my second favorite instance of a character telling another character to run. But to wrap up, Outpost feels like it's going to be very predictable. There are so many moments during the run of the film as it's unfolding that you think they are just kind of telegraphing and showing you exactly what's going to happen. There are a lot of setups and you're anticipating that you know how they're going to pay off. But I'm happy to report that this movie isn't nearly as predictable as you might think. Now, as I record this right now, the WGA writer's strike is still happening. And though this film was written and produced way before that strike, it feels like the strike affected this movie because the ending is so abrupt. It's like somebody said to the writer here, pencils down, and that was it. It just stops. I couldn't believe it. I can't remember a movie that stops so abruptly. It's jarring and frankly, not very satisfying. So a little denouement would have been nice. But for the most part, I actually enjoyed Outpost just fine. It's definitely a one-time watch for me. I can't see ever revisiting this movie again. I rented it to stream on Amazon for $6.99, and I'd say that might be a little steep for this movie. Maybe wait until it's in the $3.99 range, or on Netflix, or at Redbox. So rating and recommendation for Outpost 2023, I'm coming in at a 6 out of 10, and I'm calling it a one-time rental. Now, if you love horror movies and you want the scoop on the brand new 2023 horror releases, then check out our full-blown show. It's an audio horror podcast over at newhorrormovies.com and anywhere you find podcasts. Our links are in the description. This is the official YouTube channel for Jay of the Dead's new horror movies, so you can like and subscribe. But more importantly, be sure to visit newhorrormovies.com, or else I will be standing outside your window watching you sleep.